What's up, nerds? How you doing? Gotta plug it in, babe. It's not plugged in. We're having some technical difficulties. There it is! What is going on? Thank you, Angel. What's going on, everybody? Check out this bad boy. So my brother made this for me. It's really heavy because it's made out of like pure dense metal. And I love this thing. So it switches to the Skyrim sound, which is why it has the crossguard on it, which is kind of cool. Very neat. Very, very cool. And then it switches back to the lightsaber sound.
I need a weapon. You have one.
Also very cool. Ah. And then the old classic. But we're going to talk about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Let's fix the camera here. What did I think about it? Well, let's start out by you knowing that I went to the movies dressed like a Jedi. You gots to. How do you not do that, you know? Now, I'm going to save the overall rating for the end of this spoiler-filled review. So if you are expecting to be able to watch this review and not get spoiled, you're in the wrong place. Because there's going to be a bunch of spoilers, so know that going in. If you don't want to be spoiled, stop watching this video and come back to it later. It's hot. It's so hot. I'm going to save my overall rating at the end of this video. Let's talk about just my overall thoughts. If we're going to give a preference, my favorite of the three movies that they've come out with, Star Wars Episode 7, 8, and 9. This is my second favorite, so it's middle of the road. And I liked Episode 7 the most, and I like Episode 8 the least. And I think they did the best they possibly could to fix and retcon all the mess and all the mistakes and just the fatal errors that Rian Johnson made in Episode 8. So I think they did the best with what they had to work with. And that goes into some of my grade too, because I got to give them a little bit of props for that. But that's not going to allow them to get away with this a bunch of mistakes or any of their own problems with this film, which there are plenty. The biggest issue I had was the dialogue. The dialogue for me was really bad. Really, really bad. They would, characters were saying things that just wouldn't, it just doesn't make sense for them to say. For instance, towards the end of the movie, this is a big spoiler, because we all know Palpatine's in the film, but he's like really in the film. He's a major, major villain. He is the major villain. At the end of the movie, he's fighting Rey, and he says, "You cannot defeat me because I have all the Sith within me." And the music swells, and then it zooms in on Rey, and then she says, "But I have all the Jedi in me." And then she defeats the Emperor. It's just so incredibly corny and cheesy, and nobody would ever say that. Plus, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when I was a kid playing with my brother, playing lightsabers with my brother, or just playing pretend. And I go, and I hit him. And I go, "You're dead." And then he goes, "No, I'm not. I have an invisible force field." And then I go, "But I have a sword that breaks through invisible force fields." That's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of this weird banter where it just gets so ridiculous that you can't believe it anymore. And to science fiction, there needs to be a level of belief. And this movie definitely challenged your level of belief. And if it challenged it too much, you're not going to like this film. There's a ton of healing powers in this film. And that's another thing that really pushes your sense of what is believable to the absolute max. So if you've been watching The Mandalorian, this is a spoiler for The Mandalorian, Baby Yoda can heal you. Well, so can Rey, and so can Ben, Kylo Ren. In fact, they can bring you back from the dead. But the consequence of bringing back someone from the dead is that you die. You find that out in this film. And so it's very messy. And there's a lot of just things that are very convenient that happen. Very much like what I was just referring to with death-defying powers. And I don't like that, because part of the thing that was so special about being a Jedi is that when you died, you became a Force ghost, which was something that the Sith would never be able to obtain, which is why Palpatine was so focused on finding a way to cheat death, which clearly he did. But now, you just need a good buddy who's willing to bring you back from the brink of death. And that's all you really need. And so I find that to be a little bit lackluster for me. And it's unfortunate. So the dialogue was meh at best. There's a lot of weird just conversations going on between Poe and Finn that didn't make a lot of sense. Between Rey and Finn. You know, Finn was about to die, sinking in a sand pit, and he was going to tell Rey that he loved her. And then they didn't die, and he just never told her. So you never actually find out that that's what he was going to say, but we all kind of know that that's what he was going to say. And you just never hear it, which is weird. And then they give him a bunch of other characters that you're supposed to believe that he cares about romantically, and then he doesn't go anywhere with those characters either. So it's just a very, very bizarre character arc with Finn. And I never thought they did anything special with him. I thought they wasted him as a character. And he spends most of this movie just yelling Rey a lot. A lot of times does he yell, Rey! And it's too much. They bring Kylo Ren back to the good side, which really bothered me. I was hoping that they would not do that, because I just want to see, for one time, somebody convert to the dark side and stay that way. Like, fully commit to just being a bad guy. Yeah, we all know that Chancellor Palpatine is that guy, but I don't want it to be Chancellor Palpatine. I was really hoping to find somebody who just dug in their roots and just wanted to be as evil as possible. And I was kind of hoping that that's what they were going to do with, Ben, but they just ended up making him like a whiny emo guy. And it's just so boring to me. And so they bring him back to the good side by bringing Han Solo back to have a little pep talk with his son. And I didn't have anything against that. Some reviewers didn't like that, but I don't really care. And then he comes and he helps Rey. And so they team up to take down the big bad. And then Rey dies. But now Ben Solo, no longer Kylo Ren, brings her back to the light side, brings her back to life, and kills himself. So it was very Romeo and Juliet. And that very much bothered me. I would have much rather seen Rey die, and Ben die, and Chancellor Palpatine die. Just all of them. And that was the ultimate sacrifice to stop the war. That is what needed to happen. But no, Disney can't have that happen, because that would be too dark. You gotta have Rey live. And so you kill off Ben, you kill off Palpatine, and you keep Rey around. And then she builds her own lightsaber, and it's yellow, and everybody's gonna love that. And that's gonna be the talk of the town for the next 2 years. And so overall, I don't want this video to get too long. Obviously, there's way more in this movie that we could talk about. We could talk about Lando. We could talk about the CGI. We could talk about Leia. We could talk about Chewie. Oh, speaking of Chewie. So after Leia dies and the good side finally wins, Chewie finally gets his Medal of Honor from Episode 4, A New Hope. So if you know the movies, you'll know that Chewbacca doesn't get a medal from A New Hope. Only Han and Luke get medals. Well, Leia has been keeping one for the last, 40 years, and has finally decided to give one to Chewie now that she is dead, and the good side has won. Finally, after all these years of servitude, devotion and dedication, and risking his own life on multiple occasions, he finally has earned that medal. So let's give a round of applause for Chewie for doing so much more than everybody else in this entire franchise and finally getting recognized for it. That is fantastic. Good for him. So incredibly cheesy. The way they just kind of fluffed it in at the end. I just found it kind of disrespectful for the character. But there are some things that I did like. The CGI was ridiculously good. Like, ridiculously good. It was beautifully shot. The cinematography was amazing. Chancellor Palpatine looked frightening as all get out. He looked really, really good. And the Force lightning that he had this time was just off the charts powerful. It was very, very cool. But he dies the same way he died last time. He got caught monologuing. Which is the same way he got caught last time. And then Mace Windu turned him into a wrinkly old guy because he got caught monologuing. And so, I don't know what it is about this evil villain, but he just can't seem to learn the same lesson. So, he dies yet again because he makes the same mistake. 3 times in a row. Just terrible writing. But he looked really good. I loved the lightsaber battles. I thought the choreography was as good as I could expect it to be because they really moved away from the fluidity of the prequels, and they kind of went back to the very aggressive, very sharp fighting styles from the original trilogy, and they kind of just elevated it to a new level. And so it looked really, really good. It's not my preferred method of watching lightsaber battles, but it is very, very cool. And especially when they have that lightsaber battle between Kylo Ren and Rey on Endor when they're fighting on the Death Star. It just looks beautiful. And if you're looking for Dark Rey, because you saw that in the trailer, Dark Rey is in the movie for maybe 2 seconds. Because it's just a vision. So they got you if you were thinking that maybe she was a clone or some stuff. No, she's not a clone, and there's not multiple Reys running around, but she is a Palpatine, which I kind of saw coming because Rian Johnson really screwed that one up by really pissing off like half the fan base. So I knew that they had to go with somebody, and based off of how the movie was going, it was going to be pretty obvious who she ended up having a lineage with. And Palpatine's whole plan was to get her to kill him because it would transfer his evil life force into her, and she would end up ruling as the ultimate Sith bad guy. And that was the vision she kept seeing, which was Dark Rey. And I thought that was as best as it could have been. I think it was cool because it kind of handcuffed her. She couldn't kill him, even though she needed to in order to stop the war. And so how they got around it was they got him to kill himself because he wouldn't stop electrocuting himself, which is just so goofy. But whatever. So the CGI was great. Lightsaber battles were fantastic. Rey is a Palpatine. I'm indifferent with the idea. I just don't think they executed it very well, but I don't have anything against the idea. And Chewie finally got a medal, so good for Chewie. So that's my spoiler review. On a scale of A to F, A+ is a perfect movie. F is a non-functional. You cannot finish the film. I give it a C+. It's above average. And the reason why I give it a C+ and not anything lower is because it's not my least favorite of the 3. I would rather watch this one than Episode 8 any day of the week. I would rather watch Episode 2 more than Episode 8. And this movie, I enjoyed far more than that. Luke was in it. I really loved that. I loved having Anakin Skywalker in it. You never saw him, but you heard him a lot towards the end of the movie, which was really cool. Mace Windu's voice was in it. Yoda's voice was in it. Obi-Wan's voice was in it. Leia's voice was in it. Who else was in here? Qui-Gon's voice was in it. I mean, there was a lot of little voice cameos at the end of the movie, which was really, really neat. And so those, and the CGI and just the cinematography and the lightsaber battles got me to an above average film, but there was so many problems with the plot and the dialogue and the character development and the character arcs that it really, really bothered me. And those are the things that I really look for when I'm watching a movie, especially a Star Wars movie. I just love the story, and I don't think the story was executed very well. I think it was executed the best that they probably could have made it. And so for that, I do give them props for finishing it out as best as they probably could, but it just wasn't good enough for me. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Am I way off? Do you hate my robes? I rented it for $121. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much.